You felt it, right? That nagging feeling in the back of your mind that the world isn't as easy as they would have you believe? They taught you that justice was blind, destiny was unpredictable, and that power might shield those who abused it. They lied. This is not a game of chance, a courtroom discussion, or a plea for compassion. This is a reckoning, and you are at the doorway. Others disregarded the indications, discounted the patterns, and turned away when the truth was staring them in the face. But not you. That is why you are here. This is why you were picked. Those who came before you sought answers, only to discover that they had never asked the appropriate questions. Justice is not a nap. It never was. It's been watching and waiting, aligning each component into position, and now everything is ready. This is not only a narrative. This is a test. Will you take a step forward, or will you pretend the fire isn't at your feet? Don't be fooled. God is not mocked for what a man sows. He will also reap. Galatians 6 verse 7. A tree does not grow fruit overnight. A storm does not build without warning, and unwavering judgment does not come without reason. Every deed planted in the soil of time will flourish, whether the person who planted it is ready or not. And now the harvest has arrived. Can you sense it in the air? That shift, that pressure, that irrefutable weight, pushing against the boundaries of reality and demanding adjustment. Some call it destiny. Some call it justice. But what happens now is neither vengeance nor retribution. It is law in action. Those that fell were not discarded at random. They went over the barrier. They disregarded the quiet order etched in the bones of creation. They mistaken patience for absence. Delay is looking for a getaway. Time was never on their side. Every instant they thought they were free was only a pause before the equilibrium restored itself. Make no mistake, there was never an option. Not in the manner they thought. The invisible hand acts without hesitation. It does not seek permission. It does not falter under the weight of remorse. And now those who formerly reigned from false thrones are crumbling. Their names dissolved into the framework they believed they could alter. Their voices previously had power. Their footprints already made roads. But now, they are now nothing more than the result of the actions they initiated. The more deeply you examine, the clearer it becomes. Nothing was ever out of place. Not a single defeat. Not one single fall. Not a single reckoning. The sequence was perfect. The timing is exact. Each moment of doubt, every appearance of safety was only a pause in the design's progression. Because this isn't about cruelty. This isn't about retribution. This is about order. The world does not descend into anarchy. It shifts. It corrects. It lines up. What was lost is returned. What was broken, mends. And everything that has wandered too far from the foundation is eliminated. They believed they were exempt. They weren't. And as you stand here, watching the last pieces fall into place, you realize what others refuse to see. This was bound to happen eventually. There are certain realities that stay hidden until one is compelled to delve beyond illusion. Many people believe that justice is only a human interpretation, a flimsy effort to confine the unavoidable inside sentimental constraints. True equilibrium, however, is unaffected by emotion. It doesn't negotiate or seek permission. It's just to witness. It is to stand on the outskirts of something huge, impervious to mortal vision. Awareness is both a gift and a weight, one that slices through ignorance like a sword, leaving only clarity in its wake. What emerges is not punishment. It is not an individual's volition. This is a correction, a profound structural transformation that renders resistance pointless. Those who disappear aren't taken away. They submit to the power that they themselves shattered. There was never a way to escape. No plea could be heard. Their existence has long ago ended. Their presence was kept together only by the last flickering traces of defiance. But destiny does not tolerate disobedience. It is neither an opponent to be defeated, nor a destiny to be avoided. It is a tide that cannot be turned back. Emotions are put in place. Before the first breath was ever taken, leave away the illusion of control. If you are hesitant, if you adhere to flimsy principles molded by transient perceptions, Uncertainty has already grabbed you. Truth does not submit to human reason. It does not adhere to the constraints of logic. What seems to be a coincidence is really an intentional tendency to disregard a hidden structure that is pushing against the limits of comprehension. Standing against it is like grasping at smoke, trying to refute what has already been written. You were never intended to be a passive witness. This information was presented to you for a purpose. What you see is neither a fiction, fraud, or the labor of any hand limited by time. It is something older and colder, unaffected by belief or denial. The world has never been what it appeared. Justice is not discovered in courts or dictated by the virtuous. It exists as a basic rule, a force that does not need acknowledgement to work, and it moves, altering anything that has deviated too far. There is only one truth. The design corrects itself with or without cooperation, and whatever a man reveals, he will reap. Galatians 6-7. You may flee, but you cannot outrun the harvest. Every seed sown in darkness will blossom in the light, whether you are prepared for it or not. The hands that established false empires and the voices that made bogus promises. The hearts went cold in their desire for power. None of it was hidden. None of this was forgotten. You believe that justice takes its time, that it is sleeping, or that the guilty have discovered a method to avoid punishment. But justice was never blind. It was patient. It was waiting. And the season has changed. The reaping has started. This isn't a chance. This is not karma. This is not some ambiguous, changing force bent to the whim of people who believe they govern the globe. This is legislation that was established before the first breath was breathed, and it is inscribed into the very basis of creation. Those who felt they were untouchable, who created tall walls and taller falsehoods, now face something much larger than their delusions. They were not picked for the reckoning. They picked themselves. Every deed, betrayal, every moment in which they felt they were above the consequences brought them here. And now the debt is due. It doesn't matter if they believe it. Truth does not need permission to be genuine. It doesn't wait for comprehension or approval. It stands immovable, unshaken, and uncompromising. Those who mistaken quiet for escape are now facing the inevitable. And there are no exits. Have you seen it? The changing tides, the weight pushing on the very fabric of existence. This is not pandemonium. This is not retribution. This is a correction. Those who violated the equilibrium were given time, distance, and warnings. However, time does not remove the inevitability. They sealed their doom the instant they strayed beyond the universe's rules. This reckoning was not given by another person's hand. It was theirs. The barriers they created were constantly closing in. The floorboards underneath them are continuously collapsing. They simply didn't notice until it was too late. And now there is no one left to help them. There is no plea that will reverse the tide. There is no prayer that can alter the reality. There is no jury, no appeals, and no corruption in this court. There's simply the design. The formula is the framework that does not falter, does not waver, doesn't miss. Those who formerly wielded authority now bear the burden of something they never completely understood. Justice that cannot be bought. There is a reason you're here. There's a reason your eyes were opened when others were blind. Those who refuse to see will hold onto their denial until the earth cracks under them. But you were intended to see this. You were supposed to stand where others turned away, to discover what they couldn't stand to admit. Because once the veil is removed and the scales fall from your eyes, you cannot go back. This is not philosophy. This is not guesswork. This is legislation in action, immutable, inescapable. The last page of a narrative that had already been written before they realized they were a part of it. The equilibrium has been disrupted for far too long. The correction isn't coming. It's already here. Order does not hurry. It waits. There were warnings. There were periods of silence, gaps in which correction may have been avoided. However, time does not undo what has been put in motion. It does not forgive. It doesn't bargain. Those who fall are not removed from existence at random. They constructed their own demise. They weren't sentenced. They just reached a point where their presence was no longer sustainable. Balance doesn't negotiate. It does not accept excess. There is no greater force than inevitability. There is no will powerful enough to change what has already been etched in the fabric of creation. You're not here by chance. If you sense a tug, a deep feeling that you have been selected, now is your time. Click the super thank you button and contribute $50 or more to get deeper insights, unique information, and a path that fits with your divine destiny. This is not only a gift. It's a proclamation, a step toward being the person you were intended to be. Take the call, walk with us, and totally embrace your destiny. Your adventure starts now. Recognize what is before you. If uncertainty remains, if doubt clings to the corners of your consciousness, you have unknowingly walked into the currents of reality. This isn't about believing. It's not about comprehending. It is all about recognition. There are no flaws in the design. There were no errant motions or computations. Every crack in reality is a repair taking place. There is no arbitrary brutality, no errant hand influencing the result. This is not a random event. This is not misfortune. This is the unrelenting realization of what has always been. What was previously secret now remains unshaken. The weight of knowledge is yours to bear, a weight that will not lift. Once established, awareness is not optional. It's an inheritance. You can't claim to see and then unsee, to know and then not know. Truth is a force that does not back down. What unfolds in front of you is not an idea, not a concept. It is a construction. It is a function. It is the execution. It does not need you, yet it has marked you nonetheless. And what is seen cannot be unseen. The weight of knowledge is no longer remote. It lies inside a relentless force that wants recognition. This is neither a philosophy to be considered or a belief to be adopted or rejected. It is an eternal fact inscribed into the very fabric of reality. There is no escape into quiet or uncertainty. What has been shared is not for comfort or self-preservation, but for the sake of continuity. The vast invisible systems of equilibrium do not need guardians. Only those willing to give testimony. Every falsehood, betrayal, every act of unbridled hubris leaves a permanent impact. The path is never lost. The echoes were never completely muted. What was previously hidden surges to the surface, undeniable and unstoppable. The illusion of invulnerability has broken. Those who formerly behaved recklessly, assuming they were immune to consequences, are now obsessed by the aftermath. Energy is not lost. It gathers, amplifies, and aligns with powers beyond reason. This is not the past returning to the present. This is the inevitable catch-up for those who believed they could evade it. The tempo of punishment does not match human timing or expectations. Its arrival is not early nor delayed, but rather accurate, uncaring, and completely indifferent to remorse. There is no departure, supervision, or doubt in what happens. The weight of consequences is not arbitrary. It is organized, unavoidable, and exact. Those who feel they are the masters of their own destiny are now at the mercy of the same foundation they have destroyed. There are no discussions or final appeals. Regret is impotent against a plan that has already taken into consideration all variables. This is hardly a lack of kindness. This represents the victory of certainty. The sequence was never broken, only waiting for the right time to ignite. You're here for a purpose. If you sense the call, now is the moment to answer it. By selecting the Join button, you have access to special information, in-depth insights, and a strong community willing to take this path with you. This is not just a membership. It is an awakening, an opportunity to completely embody your divine destiny and seize the path destined for you. Do not wait. Step ahead. Join the chosen. What previously seemed remote now surrounds you. Understanding does more than only modify one's viewpoint. It reconstructs it. There are no independent forces, rival wills, or competing objectives. There is just one absolute structure that does not need acknowledgement to operate. To observe it is to assume the position of a witness, not in passive observation, but an acknowledgement of a command that neither hesitates nor forgives. Every decision has already been accounted for. Every lie was measured against the equilibrium it aimed to upset. The inevitable does not pursue. It just comes. And when it happens, it leaves no place for denial. But let justice flow like a river and righteousness like a never-failing stream. Amos 5:24. The river doesn't ask where it should go. The tide does not consider when to rise. The deluge does not cease because someone is not prepared. Justice is the same. It moves. It flows. It corrects. Without hesitation, without pity, and without failure. Do you suppose the strong can bend it? That the clever can outrun it? However, riches may purchase a way out. They agreed. And now the current has reached them. There is no negotiating table here. There are no loopholes to exploit. There will be no last-minute attempts to change the course of events that have already begun. Those who believed they could forge their own way outside of the rules of reality are now standing in the one spot they promised they'd never be held captive by anything higher than themselves. The storm they ignored is no longer distant thunder. It's upon them. This isn't punishment. It is not a judgment rendered by human hands. It is the repair of what has been broken. The disintegration of what was held together by falsehood and hubris. They were given time, space, and several opportunities to modify their trajectory. However, the balance does not wait for comprehension. It does not wait for regrets. It moves, and it does so right now. You have seen it happen. The shifting of events. The fall of fake thrones. The inexorable spin of the wheel. At first, it seemed to be tragedy, ill luck, a precipitous decline. A turning point, too exact to be coincidence. But now you know better. There are no accidents in this system. No wayward consequences or misplaced moments. Everything is developing just as it should and always would. Because justice isn't a choice. It's a function. And those who felt they were untouchable are now affected. The money they accumulated does not protect them. The alliances they formed disintegrate in their hands. The authority they possessed has now turned against them. There is no discussion in this courtroom. No appeals to postpone the inevitable. The last words were said. The moment they made their decision. This is not karma. This is not human justice. This is a power older than time, sharper than any sword, and heavy than any weight a man could bear. It does not hesitate, ponder, or need permission to carry out what must be done. Those who upset the equilibrium have reached a point where no amount of effort can alter what happens next. They believed they could establish their own rules. However, the design does not negotiate. This is hardly the pandemonium they had feared. It is an order. They denied a structure that was always there and active, whether they recognized it or not. And now? They now understand. Not because they choose to, but because there is no longer somewhere to hide from it. And you've seen it for yourself. You are not lost in the haze of doubt like the others. You are not asking whether justice operates in the shadows. You're aware that the walls were constantly closing in. The foundation was constantly crumbling. Judgment was always coming. And now it has come. So keep an eye on the witnesses. Let them learn. Too late, but no amount of power. There is no amount of denial. No number of cleverly crafted illusions can compete with what was already written before they breathed their first breath. The river runs. The tide rises. The deluge continues unabated. And justice does not miss. Denial has no place here. Order is no longer an idea. It is a fully disclosed structure. Deception's repercussions are not forgotten. They are etched into the fundamental fabric of existence itself. Every effort to avoid the weight of consequences simply reinforces their inevitability. Those who previously felt they were hidden have left an everlasting imprint, ready to re-emerge to connect with the power that never forgets. The sequence does not misfire, stumble, or hesitate. It pursues its path with utter surety, shattering all illusions of invincibility. This life is not limited to superficial impressions. It is constructed on an enormous foundation that cannot be refuted. What was started will be completed just as planned. Indifferent to expectations or disbelief, These laws do not need confirmation. They are not bothered with appreciation. They move undetected. However, those who dare to peer beyond the barrier can't help but notice their existence. However, ignorance is no longer an option. This is neither a specific deed nor a philosophical statement. It is the fundamental framework of everything that has ever been. The evidence is in front of you, undeniable and unequivocal. There is no turning away. Once the truth is revealed, it is not easily forgotten. For there is nothing hidden that will not be revealed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought to light. Luke, aged 17. A storm does not inquire whether you are prepared. The sun does not seek permission to rise, and truth does not wait for approval. It moves undeniably and unstoppably, shaking the fundamental basis of reality itself. You may attempt to deny it, dismiss it, or hide it under excuses and diversions. However, it does not alter. It doesn't move. It doesn't bend. You felt it, didn't you? That profound, unyielding force pressed into your consciousness, compelling you to recognize what was always there. At first, it was just a whisper, a flicker, a pattern you couldn't describe. But then it became louder, stronger, and clearer, until there was no escape. Until every moment, action, and so-called coincidence fit together like a jigsaw you didn't even aware you were solving. This is not a philosophy. This is not guesswork. This is design. It does not need faith to operate. It does not need belief. It was merely those who felt they could rewrite the script and outrun what had already been written. And now you see what you've always known. The truth was never theirs to control. There is no such thing as chance. The world isn't a jumbled tangle of random occurrences and meaningless results. Everything is situated precisely where it should be. Every minute blends into the next. Every action generates its own result. And nobody is above it. You aren't simply seeing this. You feel it. It passes through you, shaping your very life. Because knowledge, once imparted, cannot be reversed. The instant you saw beyond the illusion, when the curtain was removed, you were permanently transformed. There is no way back to ignorance, unseeing, or pretending. And now, those who previously ignored hidden rules now stood on the verge of something considerably larger than themselves. They're seeing the parts fall into place. They are understanding that every step they took, every word they spoke, and every decision they made had led them here. Nothing was forgotten. Nothing was lost. They called it luck, but it was really accuracy. What they rejected as destiny was really purpose. They assumed it was a coincidence. Was the unchanging design in motion? And when this fact spreads and the weight of truth sinks in, it doesn't stop. It is not slow. It consumes. Because truth is not a soft whisper. It is a force, a flood that does not recede, a fire that does not go out. And now it is here, spreading like an unstoppable wave, washing away the last vestiges of delusion. This is not an option. This isn't an invitation. This is a revelation. You were never supposed to go blindly. You're intended to see, to be in the middle of something enormous, something unstoppable. Something was waiting for you long before you knew you were a part of it. There is no going back from revelation. Once eyesight is provided, it does not fade. It doesn't fade. The mentality shifted, recalibrates in response to the weight of consciousness. Those who comprehend begin to move differently, understanding that every movement is recorded and that each motion contributes to the whole sequence. The development of knowledge is not voluntary. It moves on its own, swallowing people who were never supposed to be in darkness. The structure does not wobble or slow. The deeper the awareness, the more insurmountable the obligation. Truth is not something to be had. It is something that claims those who dare to look. It does not wait for willingness. It chooses. It leaves a mark. It transforms. This was not a choice. It was never an option. Awareness was put exactly where it was supposed to be, undeniable in its purpose. There is no place for disbelief or escape. The framework of existence does not need validation. It just is. And now the weight of knowledge binds those who have watched its creation. What you've become is obvious. Every deed and every breath now bears the weight of discovery. Truth cannot wait for permission to be voiced. It moves relentlessly ahead, forcing its way into quiet. Resistance is to be anticipated, but it does not alter the inexorable course of events. The framework of existence does not need permission. It just is. The decree does not need architects, but it does demand recognition. You're no longer a traveler looking for answers. You are a guardian of the hidden design who bears the weight of knowing. This was not granted as a privilege, nor was it intended for comfort. It is a duty, a responsibility placed on those who can bear the weight. Correction does not stop. Restoration proceeds without hesitation, and your current job is integrated into the fabric of the unfolding design. Chaos was always an illusion, one that dissipated the instant you realized nothing was without reason. Nothing was beyond grasp. Every consequence was required. Every reckoning is planned. Those who fell did not stumble into destiny. They walked towards it. Their decisions shaped the route long before they reached its conclusion. The balance is unwavering, and it does not forgive. It remembers. It reclaims. It restores. And you, equipped with vision, now recognize that nothing can escape the power of what must be corrected. There is no pause in the action of rectification. The invisible rules do not need belief to work. They do not wait for understanding before acting. The pulse of the unavoidable pulses underneath everything invisible but certain. There was never an alternate way, only the exact sequence of events as they were always intended to be. You did not put things in motion. Nonetheless, you bear witness to its implementation. This, too, is part of the framework. It is impossible to undo what has been taught. What has been seen cannot be disregarded. The mechanism does not rest. Furthermore, no involvement is required. It functions silently. Its capacity for labor is limitless, as is its reach. However, the weight of awareness is not without expectation in speech. Allow the invisible energy to be felt in the words you speak. Allow those who still walk blind to feel the trembling under their feet. Allow them to realize that what they neglect will not stay far indefinitely. The unavoidable is not prevented, not amended or postponed. Justice is neither kind nor harsh. It just comes, unaffected by will or opposition.